Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of July 23, 2016, a date of marriage of 2005. This MLCer is at home and is a high-energy replayer. She says, my MLCer had an affair lasting over 11 months. And I moved out, and that was July of 2016. Bomb drop number 1. We reconnected, and I moved back in a few months after the end of his affair, and that was in November of 2017. We got on great. He admits that he left for a girl who was 19. He was 40 at the time. Because he thought I didn't want children with him. In 2017, we worked through for the first bomb drop and the affair. Things were great for a few years. He was super accountable. I got pregnant with our son, who is now 4. He was great, respectful, remorseful, and groveling at my feet prior to and for the first 2 years of our son's life. He read a lot and realized he was in limerence during bomb drop number 1. And then he realized how dangerous it was to innocently think he could befriend someone who was the opposite sex. Fast forward to September 2021. Suddenly I got the I love you, but I'm not in love with you in a text. Because he was seen hanging out in a bar with a new young girl. And I called it out. Since then, he's been back in replay. Never home. He monsters times 10. Is this considered a new crisis? Yes and no. This is a good question. Usually what I get these, and they're more like 10 years between. And what I say is if they are yanked out of the crisis early, they won't have processed everything. They won't have gone through their journey. They won't have integrated the pieces of themselves that they are working toward through in this journey. And they will go back in later for a much worse crisis. They will have to complete the crisis this time. I frequently see this being a 10-year gap. Could be more. It could be a little less. This is a 5-year gap. If it were, so I'm going to say that it's on the cusp of being considered a restart, or restarting basically. Even though, if it were 1 year, no, I wouldn't say it's a new crisis. If it were 2 years, I wouldn't say it's a new crisis. Not even 3, really. It would have been stuffed down, and you might still be at a new bomb drop, new time clock. So it might not make any difference. But I'm going to say that this is much more of the gap. You've got some good healing time in there. He got some insight in there. I do have questions about it. You said that you worked through it. What does that mean? Did you go to counseling? Did you go into therapy? What kind of assistance did you have in working through this, or what did you do to work through it? I love how he was great. He was remorseful. He was groveling. He has shown that he can do that. He has shown that he can apologize, that he can come through, and he can be better. He's got the evidence of it. And if it ever happens, then you can show him that evidence of it. When, like, no, it's too far gone. No, I can never do this. That sort of thing. No, there's too much damage done. You can show him. The evidence of us overcoming that is already here because it's already been done. There's an advantage to that. Excuse me. So it does seem that he has a pattern of going after very young. I mean, standard is younger. And we see half his age, but he was with someone who was left for somebody who was 19. He left for a teenager. He left for a little girl. Not that she would like to be called that. You know, we see people who are 25 and 50 or 30 and 60. I mean, yeah, half the age, but a 30-year-old is supposed to be a mature adult. And we regress. And in the context of an illicit affair, both parties can be regressed, even if they're not both in a midlife crisis, just because of the limerence. Limerence is regressive. Let's just face it. So, but what causes him to go back to these negative coping skills? He was seen hanging in a bar with a new young girl, and you called it out. I get the feeling, the way you phrased it, that it's not, that he still normally hangs out with the guys, Not that these are all problems. And maybe he hangs out in a bar, but this time there was a new young girl. That seems to be the key piece of it. And you called it out, so he got really upset. Does he already have a regressive lifestyle in part? Does he have friends that support this regressive lifestyle? The bachelor party lifestyle. Is he still kind of an adult teenager? You can be all of those responsible things. And I'm not saying in being immature, but Chuck and I had a friend who, for years, he was he had a, it was kind of like a dorm room at the facility where he worked. And he was in his 30s and he was still there. It supported, he's not immature, but it supported that kind of a lifestyle. And so I saw him, oh yeah, he's just, he's just a frat boy still, but he's 35. He eventually, and he had girlfriends throughout it, and eventually one of his girlfriends and he moved in, bought a house. And I think that changed a lot. Just that. So I'm looking at some pieces of the lifestyle seem to be younger lifestyle actions that might have been normal for him. And are those also enabling pieces of him to go into the negative coping skills? Just wondering. The good news, like I said, this is a new crisis, but he has done it before. The bad news, MLC gets worse before it gets better. And this one before, when you had a crisis previously, it didn't really do that. You did a really great, awesome job. You reconnected. You moved back in a few months after the end of his affair. And it felt like a long time, because July of one year to November of the next, you had almost a year and a half in there. But that's really short for a midlife crisis. If somebody returns within 16, 17, 18, even 20 months, 24, I am not buying it. And it can last, and people think, well, I've been back together for 10 years. Yeah, 10 years is the gap I usually see. And sure, it happens, and it might not always be due to a midlife crisis. So I can't say it was that before, but he was at the right age. It wasn't that he had a bomb drop, and this happened when he was 30. You said he was 40 in 2016 when this happened. So it was ripe for a midlife crisis type of age and affair. So that may be very well what it was. He did not integrate. He did not fix the problems. He came home, and maybe you didn't rug sweep. Maybe you did what you needed to in therapy to fix the marriage and to heal and to do that. But here's the problem. There are still root problems that are about him, not the relationship. And they weren't fixed. And you go back in. He has to go back in to fix those. It has to happen. Like you said, he's monstering times 10. It is going to be that much worse. What do you need to do? So, you said that he was hanging in a bar with a new young girl, and you called it out. That's your new bomb drop. From now on, consider that bomb drop. You have a bomb drop number 1. I sometimes will consider bomb drop 1 and 2 when there's a gap, but not as big a gap. Now, that's one crisis. Let's just start over. When was this bomb drop? Did you send him? For September of 2021. So it has been a year and a half now. It's a little over. And he's still at home. You didn't say this is an affair that's going on. You said he's monstering. Do you know that there's an alienator? Or was he just seen sitting with a new girl at that time? Because he needs to go. If he is cake eating, if he is having an affair, and you know about it, you need to kick him out. No, you don't leave. I know you left before. You now have a son. And even previously, I would have told you, no, the person who wants out gets out. He needs to leave. The best is if he chooses to leave. The next one is if you tell him to leave and he does it. The final is you pack his bags and they are gone. He is officially kicked out because you actually have to physically do the kicking out. It needs more boundaries. He's monstering at you. He's monstering at his son then. Even if he's not directly doing it, there's some toxicity in this relationship now. I don't know how high conflict it is, but that's dangerous for a child. Children are better off if their parents stay together even if they're not happy, if the relationship is not high conflict. They are better off if the relationship is high conflict if their parents are not together. I don't know what level you're at, but I have a friend who, we had talked about this, and her husband was an addict, and he could occasionally be abusive. The key that she brought up to me was, but it's occasionally. It's hardly ever. But there were such giant blow-ups once a year that everybody was waiting for them to happen again. And it was high conflict and toxic because of the addiction that was going on. There was an undercurrent of toxic conflict that might have felt low if you looked at it as not being violent. And then he had the episodes. Her daughter's been suicidal. Her son, we saw him a few weeks ago, and he seems to be doing so much better now. It's been years. But he was, I think he threatened her with a knife, or he came out with a knife at one point. These were scary times. And that was, the kids started to show those things when she finally did kick him out. And then that escalated the violence. He came over to the house. She had to have protections. I'm not saying that's happening, but he is monstering. And my point is, we might not think this is at the threshold of high conflict, because the study that did that didn't say, well, where's this conflict threshold? Where do you know it goes from low to high or medium to high? But if you are constantly waiting for it and sensing it, think about what's the anxiety on your son. And when I say you need to kick him out, that doesn't mean stop standing. It doesn't mean that at all. He has showed the ability to heal. He's not going to believe in it right now, but he's showed that he has it. You believe in it, and you can tell him about it. Maybe when he's not monstering. Maybe when there's an opening. But right now, it seems like he's being abusive. And if he is having an affair, he needs to go. If you don't know about the affair, and he's having it secretly, do you suspect? Find out. Get more information. Because this has been going on for too long that he's been enabled to never come home. Just the never come home. There are, I don't want to say rules because there are, but there are boundaries within relationships. There are structures within relationships. And there's a little boy there. And he needs stability. Dad not ever coming home or randomly coming home on the, and staying out late. It's too random. Your son needs better structure. It'll be better for him. And right now it's being enabled. What's going to stop him from monstering and never coming home or doing this random, I'm home now, I'm home at 2 a.m. tomorrow. I might be home this afternoon. Oh, but I might stay gone for 2 days. No. Give some more stability to him. You've got it. He's got to go. I know that sucks. It's terrible. It's probably not what you expected. But and if you need more information from him, or to gather more from some of their men, but such as whether there really is an ongoing affair, get all your ducks in a row. Prepare for this, but don't take very long. Swiftly get him out for your son's sake, at least. Okay. I'm sorry. I hope this helps, though. And I will see everybody in the next question.